Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar on self-sabotage. Hey, before we get rolling, could you all type in that you can actually hear me all right? I want to make sure that the audio is working on this end. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So, man, this evening has been such a comedy of errors. I just have to share with you while we're waiting for a few other people to get logged in. First of all, my name is Trish Thorpe, for those of you who I haven't met. And I am not tech savvy. My husband is the techie, and he happens to be over on the Big Island getting ready for our HUNA workshop. And oh man, I logged in early. I was going to prepare like all of my slides for this webinar. And I got into my computer and I'm looking around for my folder that has like all of my webinars that I've ever done, all of my PowerPoint presentations, and it's gone. It's like nowhere to be found anywhere in my computer, which is hilarious. So I scrambled to build new slides, and then there's technical errors and issues, and I can't figure out how to do a couple things in PowerPoint. So I'm scrambling for the last 10 to 15 minutes, trying to figure out how to get a couple things tweaked in PowerPoint so that I can share my slides with you all. And guess what? Not happening. So we're going to freeform on tonight's webinar. I'm going slideless, and it's really not a problem. You know, if there's anything that I'm learning from this totally hilarious, like last 45 minutes of my life, is that, you know, we do so much in life to prepare ourselves for this type of thing, to make sure that we show up, we've got everything that we need in order. And sometimes the universe is just like has a sense of humor, right? So today, the universe is being a little trickster. And I say, challenge on. I'm ready for this. Tonight, I want to talk with you all about a little topic called self-sabotage. I've been out working with my horse pretty much, well, like half the day today, but pretty much every day for the past few days and couple weeks. I've been working with a trainer. Somewhere along the line, my horse developed these patterns, like these behavior patterns that he does. And I haven't quite been able to figure out, like, what is the trigger? What is it that makes him behave in these ways, sometimes unexpectedly? Like, what is that even about? So I hired this amazing trainer, and he's really gifted. I call him the horse whisperer because this guy he just knows animals, and he works so well with energy, and he just anticipates their every move and speaks with them in their language. So I've been working with him to work with Pard, and it's been so interesting to observe Pard's behaviors and also to go through these motions of identifying, like being able to really see like what triggered that reaction from him, what triggered that behavior from him, and then looking at, okay, how is my behavior contributing to that? How is he reading my energy? How is this whole interaction working out? So I've been learning how to teach my horse how to install new strategies, new behaviors, so that he's no longer running his old patterns, which obviously creates an environment and a relationship between us that is totally bonded and really powerful. Self-sabotage is something that's been coming up a lot lately for my clients, for friends and family, and even for myself. I actually did a webinar, not a webinar, but I did a video, I want to say 2 months or so ago, pardon me, on self-sabotage for the people who are in my private Healing Your Heart Facebook group. because it's something that was really up for my clients at the time. It was a theme that I was seeing and hearing on every call. And as I began to look closer at this concept that if my clients are a reflection of me and I'm a reflection of them, how is it that I am also running patterns of sabotage in my own life? And I got to really start looking at what that is that was showing up for me. So, yeah, it's been a prevalent theme lately, but I mean, if we think about it and if we're honest with ourselves and one another, I think self-sabotage is just an ongoing pattern that we run as human beings. Like, when are we not, in some way, shape, or form, self-sabotaging? So, worth talking about. And, you know, the thing with self-sabotage is at the end of the day, it's really created by things like negative emotions, things like limiting beliefs, and things like parts conflicts or these internal conflicts that we have that leave us stuck in this perpetual state of fear, of anger, or resentment, and running these old behavior patterns that prevent us from being who we're truly meant to be, right? From doing the things that we want to be out in this life doing, and from having the things that we totally deserve to have in our lives. Self-sabotage is the culprit for our inability really to attain and move into this space of being, doing, and having the things that we want. And at the end of the day, we're human beings. One of my teachers, Dr. David Simon, who passed away several years ago, he said, there's really only one thing that we're here to do in this life, and that's to love more and to be happy. Just think about that for a minute. If we could all just love more, love with our entire being, and be truly happy in everything that we're doing, wouldn't that make life so much nicer? Wouldn't that make our relationships so much closer and so much more meaningful and bonded? Truly, we deserve happiness. We deserve to live a life of joy and abundance and a love and acceptance and success and all of these things that we're meant to be whole beings. Yet when we run these patterns and behaviors that are basically self-sabotaging, no matter how you look at it, any type of sabotage is self-sabotage. It really puts us in this perpetual place of feeling stuck and unable to move forward. So, I mean, what does self-sabotage sound like? Self-sabotage sounds like, I just want to quit. I'm just going to quit. Self-sabotage sounds like, it's not worth it. It's too hard. I don't have what it takes. I'm not good enough. I don't want to deal with this stuff right now. Screw it. Screw you. Screw everybody. I mean, it sums up like this whole kind of mindset of I can't, I won't, I don't know how, I don't deserve, the world doesn't deserve me. And so we run these loops in our mind that perpetuate negative emotions, that continue to perpetuate the beliefs, right? That we don't deserve to have what we want, or maybe the people around us don't deserve to have us, right? So a lot of times we are sabotaging other people, and at the end of the day, karma comes back around in one way, shape, or form. So we end up sabotaging ourselves. So what is self-sabotage? Self-sabotage is really, it's limiting beliefs, right? It's a collection of negative emotions and limiting beliefs that are based in past experiences. can also be patterns and behaviors that we run. I mean, if you think about it, sabotage is a pattern. Like, where in your life have you run the same or similar pattern in different areas of life, right? That's the same behavior. You do it in career, you do it in your relationship, you do it with your family members, you do it when it comes to your health and fitness. Like, what's the pattern that you run? So that's what, self-sabotage is, a collection of emotions, beliefs, behaviors, and patterns that are all kind of stuck together, clumped together as a result of past negative experiences that we had that haven't been healed or that haven't been integrated. And so as a result, they sort of take over our internal programming and we just run them on autopilot. And it's real. You guys, self-sabotage is real. It's real for us. It's something that we all experience to some extent. And so looking at what causes self-sabotage is looking at things like anger and resentment. Maybe there's some anger or resentment toward your parents or your caretakers from childhood about how you were raised or what you told was possible for you and in your life. And as a result of how you were spoken to or treated, you develop these beliefs that now as an adult you run unconsciously. And so things like anger and resentment that are buried in you, that have gone unresolved, unreleased, unintegrated, those perpetuate the behaviors of, all right, well, if my parents always told me that I wasn't going to be successful in life, then it might make sense that I would have anger about that. And as I become a teenager or a college student or an adult, and I start to have experiences, or I continue rather to have these experiences that reinforce that I'm not going to be successful, what starts to happen is we create situations where we torpedo ourselves. In the workplace, if you were told that you were stupid or never going to amount to anything, or if you didn't have what it took, or even if you have a learning disorder, right? And then you get into a work environment where you're having trouble understanding something, or you're not getting a point, or you're not catching on quickly enough. And all of a sudden you say to yourself, you know what? I'm just going to quit. I can't figure this out. Everybody else seems to have it figured out. Everybody else knows what's going on. Everybody else can do this, but I can't. And so what do? We start to create situations and events and circumstances that sabotage that job. We do the same thing in relationship. Maybe you're dealing with sadness. Maybe at the root of your self-sabotage is sadness and disappointment. Maybe you had an experience in relationship where you were betrayed, or someone left the relationship before you were ready to leave the relationship. And so as a result, you've adopted behaviors and patterns so that if you even allow yourself to get close to being in a relationship, even though it's what you say you want, that you start to sabotage the relationship. You start to act out in ways that prevent that person from being able to get close to you. And so ultimately, the relationship blows up and goes away, and you have created it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. We do it in our health and fitness. We say we want to lose weight, exercise, get back in shape, and do those things that are so important to us, and have those reasons why being healthy needs to be at the top of our list, every single day. So we set goals to go do something, but then we sabotage our results. We don't feel like going to the gym, so we don't do it. And even though we have all the intentions in the world of eating well and eating clean and preparing our meals in advance and taking healthy snacks, that at the end of the day, we're like, forget about it. It's not going to matter if I have a burger one day and a Snickers bar for a snack. And it feels great in the moment until you get home later on or wake up the next day and you're like, man, I totally derailed my path. I totally derailed on my path. So I love, there's a few of you that are sharing your own personal experiences. Thank you, Tomoe. Thank you for sharing your experience that, you're experiencing this pattern in your students too, and that this is so timely. Yeah, I mean, it's everywhere, isn't it? So what do we do about these behaviors that we run? Because I have to believe that if you're here on this webinar or watching the replay recording of this webinar, that on some level you're running these patterns, or at the very least, you know someone in your life who is. Self-sabotage, you want to look for the triggers. You want to look for the drivers. A lot of times there's really three big things that are the drivers of self-sabotaging patterns and these behaviors. The first one is baggage. Baggage is an accumulation of negative emotions that are unwarranted or inappropriate or inappropriately displayed in a time when it's more than what is actually called for based on what's happened. So overwhelming emotions, overwhelming anger, if a deadline isn't met, or if you go to launch a webinar and you find that your entire slides folder has gone missing. And instead of taking a deep breath and being like, wow, that's an awesome opportunity, instead you get angry and you start freaking out and you start throwing things around and you start lashing out at the people around you. That would be an indicator that you've got emotional charge, a high level of emotional charge. So the drivers are baggage, negative emotions, limiting beliefs. I can't do it. I'm not good enough. I'll always be alone. They don't really love me. I'm not really as good as they think that I am. I don't want to do this. I don't deserve to do this. Beliefs are conscious because we hear them running through our mind all the time, every day. Alex, fear of achieving success and feeling a void that can't be filled. Right. That's a limiting belief. That's a limiting belief right there, that you can't be successful, or that there's something to fear around achieving success. And so, these are the things that in some ways we're consciously aware of them, but in other times we're not. We might be sabotaging ourselves in ways without even understanding that we are the ones that are running a pattern. Another big one is parts. So in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, there's something we work with called parts. And basically it's when you have two things going on, two aspects of yourself that are in conflict with one another. It's when there is a dichotomy that is in conflict. And basically these two parts of you, if you've ever had the experience like, well, part of me wants to do this, but the other part of me doesn't, and you feel like you're constantly being yo-yoed back and forth, that would be a parts conflict. Those parts have become fragmented and have forgotten that they were once part of a larger whole and totally connected. So a lot of these things that we call baggage, right? Baggage is such a loosely wrapped term for all the crap that gets in our way, all the stuff that we're dragging through life, trying to rid ourselves of and integrate. So Once you know what the drivers are, then what we want to start doing is creating a level of awareness, cultivating some awareness around how to do a pattern interrupt. But before we go on to that, one of the primary tools and techniques that I use now to let go of my negative emotions, my limiting beliefs, and to resolve my parts, part of me this, part of me that, is mental and emotional release. Mental and emotional release is a trademarked therapy. Basically, it's a series of techniques that was invented back in the 80s, and it's gone through clinical and academic research. There are thousands of case studies proving its efficacy in the area of being able to get rid of negative emotions, limiting beliefs, anxiety, things like that. So that's the primary technique that I have been using. It's what my husband and I teach at our Empowering Your Life event. It's what I use with my clients, my one-on-one coaching clients, when I do a breakthrough session with them. And it's what I do with myself. I'm not exempt to any of this stuff. In fact, just recently, I've been noticing some patterns that I've been running, and I've had discussions with my husband like, wow, I'm really catching myself running these ridiculous behaviors, and I really need to get to the root of what's the trigger, what's the driver, what's creating this, what's causing it ultimately. Lucky for you guys, Dr. Matt James, who's my husband, he wrote a book and it was published last fall called Mental and Emotional Release. Imagine that. It's available on Amazon. I wrote a chapter in it talking about how to navigate your emotions after you do release. But check it out. Utilize that book to help you get out from underneath your baggage. So that's the first thing I'm going to share with you is buy that book, order that book, and use MER to help release the negative emotions and the limiting beliefs. Because the very first thing you want to do when creating a pattern interrupt and installing a new strategy for getting out of self-sabotage is you need to be flat on your emotions. You need to clear out the baggage. Another thing to look at is, are you connected to yourself? Are you connected to who you are? Do you know who you are and who you want to be in 10 years? Do you know the direction that you're wanting to head in life? Do you understand where you're going and what your goals are, and do you know why that's important to you? Honestly, we can self-sabotage in some ways and in some cases because we don't know who we are and we don't feel connected to anything. We don't feel that we have a sense of purpose, that we have a direction that we're moving in. And so naturally, if you don't know who you are and you don't feel connected up to any real purpose and you don't know where you're going, gosh, it becomes real easy to sabotage, doesn't it? Just like, why am I here? Why do I care about getting good grades? Why do I care about getting an amazing education? Why would I care about a successful career or a nurturing relationship? Chances are, if you aren't connected up with something more meaningful on your path, that it's much easier to stay in this kind of downward spiral, this downward cycle of being stuck in your emotions and your beliefs and these cycles and rhythms and behaviors that have been with you since you were a child. Nothing to beat yourself up about. It's just, okay, now it's time to get clear on who I am and what I want and why that's important to me. So who do you want to be in 10 years? Truly, like, who do you want to be in 5 years? What does that amazing version of you look like? And once you get that, like, spend some time thinking about that, you guys. And once you get some clarity around the most amazing life that you want to be living in the next 5 to 10 years, then begin to identify like the direction you need to be moving in. after you know what direction you're heading in, then you're going to want to set a goal. In goal setting, this is what we do. We have to know, what are we doing in life and why is it important? If you're calling in an amazing relationship, why do you want that relationship? What does that mean to you? Why is it important to you? Why are you going after a particular job or career? What does that mean to you? Why is it important to you? Same with your health and fitness. If you're heading out and, thinking about losing weight, or, starting a new exercise program, or cleaning up your eating, why? What does that mean to you? Why is that important to you? One of my clients, that I was working with recently, she had this self-sabotaging pattern where her goal was to lose weight. And she would leave her office late in the day, and her husband always loved to snack on Haagen-Dazs at night. I mean, who doesn't, right? It's amazing, Haagen-Dazs. Haven't touched it, and I don't even know how many years, but I can certainly relate. Actually, Oreo cookies was my jam. Oreo cookies and Cheetos. Those of you who come to events, don't you dare show up with Oreo cookies or Cheetos. I will ask you to leave promptly. No, I'm just teasing. I've got self-control now. But this client, so she was really doing great. I mean, she was on point. She's working out, she's eating well, she's got a trainer, she's got me as a coach. She's hitting it on all levels. She's doing great. And then her husband asks her one night to stop off and get some Haagen-Dazs. And in her mind, she's thinking, man, that's going to totally derail me. And so as she's driving home, she hears his voice in her mind, and she pulls off, picks up the Haagen-Dazs, then picks one up for herself, goes home, they eat Haagen-Dazs. The next day, she feels terrible about herself. So she has self-sabotaged her health goals. She has derailed on the path for whatever reason. When I wrote my book, Healing Your Heart, that came out this spring, I wrote that book in 3 weeks, and it took me a year to get through the edits and actually publish it. I had so many behaviors and patterns coming up that were preventing me from taking action to getting the edits done. And as I explored deeper what that was about, it was all about me being terrified of putting my story out in the world. Like, who am I? Who am I? My teachers are doctors and people who have been teaching, mindfulness for decades. Like, who is Triss? Little old Triss Thorpe. She's nobody. So all of this stuff is like going through my mind, right? And it took me so long to identify that I was even running the pattern. Like, to some extent, I knew it, but I didn't know how to get out of it. I wasn't sure I wanted to get out of it. And then I woke up one day and I was like, you know what? Enough of this nonsense. It doesn't make any sense. I am an expert at what I do. This is my dharma. My purpose in this life is to talk about emotions, help to empower the planet, and really make a difference. And I'm not gonna go to my grave with all of this inside of me. So I woke up one day and I created a pattern interrupt. I've done it in past relationships, right? Where I would push people away. Sometimes we're asking, who am I to, have this experience? And so we self-sabotage. And sometimes we're like, well, who's this other person? And we point the finger outside of ourselves. We start sabotaging things around us. We start eliminating people and opportunities and experiences around us because we can't deal with, or we aren't willing to, or we're terrified of looking within. Ultimately, at the end of the day, self-sabotage is an avoidance of dealing with the things that are buried deep within us. Ultimately, it's about our unwillingness, once we learn how to deal with stuff like this, it's an unwillingness a lot of the time to really go through the motions and do the work that's required to change our own behaviors. It's a big deal. A lot of people don't want to deal with that. They'd rather stick their head in the sand and stay in whatever situation they've been in and pretend to be happy about it just because they're giving up. They're giving up on life. That's not acceptable. We are here to be amazing. We are here to be spiritual beings. We're here to have amazing relationships and interactions. We're here to connect with nature and learn about love and learn about forgiveness and learn about how to live more openly and love more fully. We're here to experience the full range of our emotions. We're here to practice being vulnerable because vulnerability allows us to be more connected. It allows us to strip away our personas and all the nonsense that we put out in the world in front of us as a way to block out, and it's like a protective barrier. No, we're here to experience the full potential of what it means to be human and to be loved and loving. So creating a pattern interrupt, really, because that's what we're talking about. So if self-sabotage is a series of emotions, limiting beliefs, behaviors, patterns, then ultimately what we want to do is we want to create the pattern interrupt. So the first thing you want to do is look at baggage. Do you have baggage? If you do, use MER. Get the book, hire a coach, hire someone who's trained in MER that can help you out. Use whatever tools and techniques are in your toolbox, but get rid of the baggage, the beliefs, all the stuff that's holding you back. That's step number one. Look at it. Is it baggage? Look at your anger. Look at your sadness, your jealousy. Jealousy is a big one, you guys. Jealousy is a big one. I'm not just talking about the jealousy that we experience in intimate relationships, but how about the jealousy of the people in your family or the people in your community, the people that you work with, when they decide that you've got something that they want, and instead of, collaborating and being supportive, they push you away. Maybe this is your pattern. Maybe it used to be a pattern. Maybe it's the pattern of someone that you're close with, your children, your coworkers. So the first thing we want to do is look at, is there baggage? Next steps, do you have a purpose? Are you connected up with your purpose? Do you know who you are? The spiritual teachings always said that first and foremost, know thyself. You have to know who you are before you can hope to have any chance of going out into the world and achieving the things that you want to achieve, being the person that you're meant to be, with all of your mistakes, with all of your accomplishments, with everything that has happened in your life, from good to bad to everything in between. It's about going out there and doing the things in the world that you're meant to do, that you want to be doing, and having the things in your life that you deserve to have. So who are you and where do you want to be? Hold on, my bag's about to fall off the chair here. Who are you and where do you want to be in your life? Where are you heading? And what does that mean to you and why is it important to you? Take some time to connect up with that. So next, let's talk about the specifics. And you'll have to forgive me. I'm actually going to jump up and grab a piece of paper because I want to illustrate something for you since I don't have my slides. Thank you, universe. Karma exists. I'll get the universe back. So give me 1 second because this is an important point. It's not that I didn't have my stuff together and wasn't prepared. I was totally prepared. I got bamboozled. by life, and it happens, and that's just the way that it goes. So the way that we create a pattern interrupt is by doing something that's called installing a new strategy. So we all have strategies for everything we do. We have a strategy for how we brush our teeth, crazy as it sounds. We have a strategy for knowing when it's time to make our afternoon espresso. We have strategies for how we get motivated. We have strategies for how we make decisions. We have strategies for, everything basically in life. So creating a pattern interrupt is really about cultivating a level of awareness, knowing what the pattern is first and foremost. What is the pattern? And then understanding how to install the new strategy. So I'm going to draw a little something here, and I want to share this with you. Okay. This I think will be super helpful for you. Okay. I think you can all see this. So let's just say, I'll use another one of my clients who was derailing at an earlier time this year. So I had this client who I had tasked with something specific to do. And this client is really busy, like leads a very busy lifestyle, runs multiple companies, like, multi-millionaire, just like doesn't have time for anything. This is the kind of person that's like, ending one call and picking up the next call simultaneously, and just a real mover and shaker. And this person was starting to have issues in his marriage and with his children because he was so focused on work and being successful that these other things were starting to fall apart. So we agreed on several tasks that he would be working on to help him get out of this pattern. And what we found was that every time he went to do it, he would derail. So we started to explore the pattern. And this was the technique that I used with him. This is what I use with my private coaching clients, my one-on-one coaching clients. And it's also what I use for myself. So this stuff works. Okay, back to point A. Point A is where you are cruising down the path. So let's just talk about this in the context of my client. So my client is cruising down the path. We've just had our coaching call. He sees where he's, not where he needs to make his improvements. He's feeling totally inspired, totally motivated. He's on his way home from work one evening. He knows he's got the time in the evening to get the work done that we talked about because his wife and kids are out of town, and he's so pumped to get home. And then all of a sudden, whoop, he derails. He derails in his thoughts. His thoughts go to, there's so much to do. There's only so many hours in the day. Oh my gosh, did I send that email that I was supposed to send? Wait a minute, what about that contract? And I've got to book my flights to get out to this meeting. And, all of these things come into his mind. So right at this point where he's cruising down the path, he's heading home to execute the action steps that we both agreed on. So this is where he wants to be. He wants to be living in a place of present moment awareness. He wants to be he wants to just be living from the space where he can see things from a bigger picture, kind of slow down, keep a bird's eye view, but instead he's getting caught up in the weeds. So here's where he is, here's where he wants to be, and here, right there, X marks the spot. This is where he got derailed. This is where he got derailed. So now what we've done is we've identified the pattern. You have to know what your pattern is that you run. For my other client, the pattern was she's on track, she drives by the grocery store, she has the thought of Haagen-Dazs and how great it's going to be and yummy and comforting and yada yada. So that was where she derailed. For me, my book edits would come in. I would see my editor's name in my email and I would put it in a file. That's where I'd see the email and I wouldn't respond. So I know what the pattern is. And the next thing you need to do is identify where it is that you derail. Where it is that you derail. Side note, we created a one sheet, a fillable PDF that you guys can use that I'm going to be giving to you as a free gift at the end of this webinar to help you go through these steps, right? So you don't have to use my wonky little index card, although it's kind of fun, right? So you need to identify where it is that you derail. Then once you've identified where you derail, now what you need to do is you need to back up just far enough to where things were still going well. So if this is the point of derailment, this is where my client would pull off the freeway and go get Haagen-Dazs. This is where my other client would all of a sudden throw everything we talked about out the window and make the decision to go into overwhelm. This is the point where I would see my editor's email in my inbox and I would close my computer. So you want to back up just far enough that you can get back to where you're still cruising down the road, things are going great, you have all of the amazing intentions to go home and do the thing, right? Tell me you're following me. Put in the comment section that you're following me. I want to make sure this makes sense before we move on. Book name again, Mental and Emotional Release, Dane. That's the name of the book. Okay, good. You guys are getting it. Yeah, it's super basic. And at the same time, I don't want to move forward because awesome. Perfect. Okay, the next step then is you need to identify what is it that you want to do instead. This is the new strategy. So everything I've been talking about is creating an awareness that you even are running a pattern. Then identifying where does that pattern derail? Where's the point of derailment? Right here, right? Now what you want to do is identify what is it that you want to do instead? What do you want to do instead? For me, what did I want to do instead? I wanted to feel motivated by opening up that email, looking at the edits, reviewing the book so that I could get it one step closer to completion. I can't tell you what this is for you, and I can't tell you what the new strategy is that you want to install instead. But you just have to ask yourself, okay, here's what I do to derail. Here's what I want to do instead. Now, once you get the new strategy, like this is what I want to do instead, here is how you install it. Okay? Here's how you install it. First, close your eyes and do what's called visual rehearsal. Close your eyes, and in your mind, you want to see yourself going down the road, happy, motivated, excited, with a lot of momentum, a lot of inspiration, a lot of passion for where you're headed and what you're doing. And then right at that point, so you have to back up before you actually in the past would fire off this derail, you back up just enough to where things are still going well. So you got to kind of back yourself up a little bit and you're like, okay, I'm still on point. That right there is the point where you want to install the new strategy while things are still going well. So now you know what the new strategy is. So as you're doing visual rehearsal, eyes closed, you're going through your mind, you're seeing yourself in the case of these clients, okay? You see yourself, you're driving down the road, you're heading home, you have every intention of getting home, and let's just say the new strategy is to turn on your favorite workout song so that you know that that's gonna push you through. It's gonna be an anchor that's gonna get you into a state that's gonna push you past that freeway exit and the Haagen-Dazs and just keep you jamming all the way down the freeway until you get home at which case you execute the rest of the strategy, which is get into your workout outfit, push play on your workouts or whatever you do, right? So in your mind, with your eyes closed, you visually rehearse it. It's called dissociated state rehearsal. This is what professional athletes do, you guys. They rehearse it in their mind. Okay, so any of you golfers out there, if you've ever watched professional golfers or any golfers really, you will see them walk up and begin practicing their swing. Before they hit the ball, you never see someone walk up to the hole and just take a swing and go. No, they're getting into state. They stand there for a few minutes and they practice their swing. They see the club hit the ball, they see the ball going, and they see the ball dropping into the hole that they want it to drop into. You see the same thing in Major League Baseball. Cameras over on the guy who's up to bat, right? Every once in a while, the camera will pan over to the next batter up. And what's he doing over there? He's sitting over there going, he's doing visual rehearsal. He's seeing it play out in his mind how he wants the whole thing to unfold. This is what you do with installing this new strategy right here at this point. What do you want to do instead? Eyes closed, seeing yourself do that thing instead. Practice it, practice it, practice it. Do it while you're sitting on the couch. Do it during your meditation. Do it while you're on the toilet peeing. Do it while you're sitting in nature. Do it wherever you have to do it, but do it frequently until you feel like you've really got it ingrained. You see, the unconscious mind doesn't know the difference between fantasy and reality. So if you're practicing this in your mind and getting so good at it in your mind, your unconscious mind is like, oh, okay, so when we actually step up to the plate or we get in the car to drive home to do our workout, boom, new strategy is installed. So the first step is visual rehearsal over and over and over and over, just get it ingrained. Then the next step is go out and do the very thing. Do the very thing in real time, in real life. This is what I've been doing with my horse. I've been working with him and using energy. So my trainer is really in tune with energy. He's not into verbal cues, I mean, when necessary, or like flailing about. This man is teaching me how to use energy and intention to guide my horse, to give my horse direction. So one of the things we're working on right now, Monday, today, and again this Friday, is how can I expand my energy field so that I can drive him in a lunge. So we're working on lunging without whips or ropes and just using energy and body positioning. And so this guy is gifted with energy, kind of like my husband. I can't see it. I can't, so I'm like, how do you guys do this? I'm feeling like a failure. And then literally last night, I caught myself in my mind going, I can't do this shit. Everybody else is so good at this. I'm surrounded by all these people who are amazing at this stuff. And I'm just not, maybe it's just not for me. And I could feel the energy like pulling me down. I started to cry a little bit. I started to feel discouraged. And my old pattern, whenever I would feel like that, would be to eliminate the situation, to quit. I would quit. And things would go away. And then I'd feel worse about myself. And then I would spin out and get thrown into a depression. Made me so sad. So the moment that I caught myself in that space last night and a little bit this morning is that I went into visual rehearsal, and I was talking with Julio today, and he said, you have to visualize it in your mind. And I'm like, oh my God, he's trying to teach me what I teach people, but it's just a different way of applying it. So I'm doing all of this with you. I came home this afternoon after working with him and before this webinar, and I sat on the couch and I did a 45-minute meditation where all I did was practice making myself bigger through energy and then contracting my energy to be smaller to slow him down and bigger. And in my mind, I was working on if I could plant a thought in Pard's mind about what it is I'm asking him to do, how would he respond? And so I'm just observing this whole thing in my mind. And I'm going to keep doing that. I'll let you all know how it goes on Friday. But my trainer said that I was amazing today. So that I call a win. So this is it, you guys. This is how you create a pattern interrupt. This is how you install a new strategy. And so what I'd love to do is I want to take a few questions. And before I do that, a couple of free gifts. We love to give back at the Empowerment Partnership. So I already kind of blew the surprise. One of the free gifts that each of you are going to receive, even if you're just watching this as a recording, is we've created a guide, a PDF, a fillable PDF that will walk you through the steps on how to do everything that I've shared with you in this webinar. So usually I have slides and you guys can take screenshots of those slides, and tonight you got me. So I won't apologize because this content is awesome, and I think sometimes slides and words and things like that can create a disconnect. So it was great connecting with you all. You're going to get that free guide in your email. Let me know what you think of it. Send me an email, tris@tristhorpe.com, and let me know how it's working out for you. The other thing is, we have our 3-day emotional healing and empowerment event coming up in October in Los Angeles. It's October 12th through 14th. It's called Empowering Your Life. Those of you who know me from the Chopra Center, I would say half of it is kind of healing the heart type of processes. Those of you who are reading or have read my book, Healing Your Heart, there's a lot of work on identifying your emotions, digging up your baggage. Then we take the entire group through mental and emotional release to help you get rid of anger, sadness, fear, hurt, and guilt, and also a limiting decision. So you come in with a particular area of life to work on. We guide you through that whole process to help clear out the baggage. And then we do a forgiveness process of forgiveness for ourselves and others. And then we wrap up with understanding your core values and how to set goals based on what's most important to you at the core of your being. So those are the free gifts that, well, actually, Empowering Your Life is not free. There's a code, and this will all be in the email. The code is TRISGUEST, TRISGUEST. I think I can type something in here to share with the whole group. Send to all. This code will get you $300 off the tuition. So the tuition for Empowering Your Life for 3 full days with us is $595. $595. That's it. That's it. Some places charge you $2,000 to come and hang out for 3 days. $595, and we're giving you $300 off of that. So use that code. Hopefully it came through. Use that code, and that will get you a discount. Now what I'd love to do is, we got about 5 or 6 minutes left. I'd like to be in integrity with the time. Our webinars usually last about an hour. So I'd love to open this up for questions. Oh, good, it came through. Very cool. And I'll do my best to get to all the questions before we wrap. And if not, please reach out to me. Go to my website, tristhorpe.com, TRISTHORP. I just sent that in a little chat box. And, fill out your email information, get in touch with me there, and let me know what questions you have. I'd love to answer questions and help you out as best I can. So Lisa, visual rehearsal. Are you looking through your own eyes or looking at yourself in the scene? That's a really good question. You can do it either way, actually. I've done it both ways, and I think that try it out and see what works for you. Dissociated state rehearsal, you can double dissociate and see yourself in the picture doing it. Dissociated state rehearsal, though, or visual rehearsal, is you looking through your own eyes, right? So if I were up to bat at a softball game, or let's say I'm at the Dodgers game and I'm a Dodger, so I step up to the plate and do you like that, Wendy Cohen? I'm a Dodger, Los Angeles, all the way. My stepson just brought me a new ball cap from the Dodger game last week. I'm pretty excited. Even though I don't love sports, I love their ball caps. So if I'm up to bat and I'm swinging, I'm going to be looking through my own eyes. I'm going to feel the bat in my hand. I'm going to experience the movement of my arms as they swing through that solid trajectory. And I'm going to hear the ball and the bat meet. I'm going to hear that smack. And then I'm going to know it's time to drop the bat and go. So I'm going to say, look through your own eyes. I feel like that's really, you want to see it, you want to hear it, you want to feel it, you want to sense it. Just move through the process as if it's happening right there in that moment. Okay, Lisa, so if I derail in the morning for my intention to work out and do my routine, I should back up and visualize the night before at wake or at waking. Here's what you want to do, Lisa. If you woke up this morning and you had the intention of working out and doing your morning routine, find out, first you have to identify, what is your pattern? What is the pattern that you run? What do you do instead, right? What is the pattern that you run? You avoid it by doing what? Then you need to figure out, at what point do you derail? Is it while you're sitting there drinking your coffee? Is it as soon as you get up and read the paper? Like, you have to figure out at what point do you derail. And then you only back up a tiny bit. So if you woke up, let's say you woke up at 6:30 in the morning. Here's 6:30 in the morning. You woke up, you're like, yeah, I'm going to get my workout on. I feel amazing, totally inspired, totally motivated. I'm just going to have my coffee first. I'm going to pull out all of my workout clothes. And you're cruising down the path. Wherever you derail, you need to back up just a tiny bit to where it's like rewinding the movie, to where you were still saying, yeah, I'm going to make my coffee. I'm pulling out my sneakers and my tank top and my workout clothes. That's where you install the new strategy. So maybe it's turning on your favorite workout song right in that moment, like, oh, I'm finishing my coffee. I'm pulling out all my workout clothes. Boom, I'm going to push play on Pink. Let's get this party started. So rockin'. That song is so great. It'll get you up and moving. So I don't know if that works for you. You have to figure out what you want to do instead. But yes, you need to, not the night before, only back up a tiny bit to where you got derailed. Hopefully that helps. Perfect. Can a pattern be so deep-seated that you can't override it? No. Patterns come from emotions, beliefs, and repetitive behavior. A pattern is a habit. How you installed a habit to begin with is by doing it over and over and over and over again. Now, this is an amazing question, Timothy, and I'm so glad that you asked it, because it's something that I've been learning from my horse trainer as well. Once we learn a behavior and we acquire a habit, you can't ever unlearn that as a habit. My horse will always remember he had certain responses to specific stimulus or stimuli. However, we're working with him to install new behaviors. So are the old ones still present? Yes, because they're acquired learning. You can't erase those from your unconscious mind. It's in there. So my horse has a specific thing that he used to do. I still sometimes sense myself going toward an old pattern, and then I have to remind myself, nope, we're going this direction instead. Through repetition. If there is a real deep-seated issue, you may want to work with a coach or a practitioner who is specifically trained in mental and emotional release. They go into the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind is where all of the programming is at, And we have the tools and the techniques to get rid of the negative emotions and the limiting beliefs. So yes, you can get rid of those. And installing a new strategy equals installing a new habit. And we install habits by doing something over and over and over again. Goes back to the whole practice is perfect. So I hope that helps. Okay, can I do a pattern interrupt strategy by saying, can a pattern interrupt strategy be saying strong emotional intention or affirmation? Here's the thing with affirmations, Coralie, they only work if you don't have baggage. If you have baggage, if you have beliefs, like core beliefs, and if you've got hardcore emotions that have not been processed, you can tell yourself, you can have positive affirmations all day. But the baggage is what's driving your behaviors. So affirmations are amazing when you're in a positive state. So to get into the most positive state that you can be in, you want to first start by getting rid of your baggage. Vanessa, I need to do a pattern interrupt for several actions. Do I use the same pattern interrupt, or should I do the process of determining an interrupt for each individual situation? Vanessa, that's a great question. You have to take it one by one. If you're running the exact same pattern, then you're going to probably have a slightly different trigger if it's in the area of relationship than if it's in the area of health and fitness. Maybe, maybe not. And you will have a different, whatever you need to install as the new strategy is probably going to be a little different. If I'm installing a new strategy of how to respond to an argument with a family member, I'm probably going to want to install something that would be very different than if I were installing a new strategy to keep me motivated on my health and fitness. Does that make sense? So treat each one separately, and it's just more thorough that way. I like to be thorough, right? I like to be thorough. I'm glad you guys, hey Deborah, great to see you on here. I'm glad you are liking these practices. Linda, using that to train my puppy. No need to apologize, it happened. Okay, thank you. Okay, getting some thank yous. Thank yous for the gift. Thank you for these tips and these tools. All right. All right, I'm seeing lots of thank yous. So let me just do a quick scroll. I want to make sure that there's no more questions. I know sometimes when we've got several hundred people on these webinars, it's hard to scroll through the questions. I'm flying solo, you guys. Flying solo. Okay, Timothy, that's the same question. You just asked it a second time. Great. I hope that made sense for you, Timothy. Let me know if you need any clarification. Okay. What is the order again? The order of, okay, so let's do a brief recap. If you recognize that you're sabotaging in some area of life, the first thing you want to do is check for baggage. Check for baggage. Are there negative emotions? Are there limiting beliefs? Is there junk that you can tell is your quote unquote stuff, right? So first you want to check for baggage. Then I like to check in, like, am I being me? Am I doing the things that I love? Do I have a vision? Am I connected up with what I want to be doing in my life? Do I know who I am? Am I connected to my purpose? Am I on my path? Am I moving myself forward? The reason I go through that piece is because, like I said it earlier in the webinar, if you're not connected to who you are and what's important to you, then of course you're going to derail and sabotage because you don't have anything out in your future. You probably have never even looked into your future. And so it's really important to spend some time looking at that. The next step is to identify what's the pattern. What's the pattern that I run? Where do I derail? So what's the pattern that I run? Where do I derail? What do I want to do instead? And then back up just before the point of derailment, when things are still going good and you're still on track, and install the new strategy through visual rehearsal over and over and over again until you feel like you've really got it down, and then go out and practice it in in the real world. Question, how many rehearsals will you need to do in order to get through the triggers that flood you with? It's going to be different for every person. Every one of us visualizes differently, and we process energy and our emotions differently. Again, if you feel like you need a guide or someone to support you through the process, reach out. I'm also the director of the Integrative NLP coaching program. Our coaches are specifically trained to help people move through this type of stuff. So you can reach out to me at Tris, T-R-I-S, at NLP.com. And I can connect you up with, I just look through our coaching database and try to hook you up with someone who would be a great fit. So if you need help with that, definitely reach out. All right, I accidentally deleted a couple. I think that they were thank yous. So, okay, perfect. Well, I think we've gotten through all the questions, everyone. So I want to just thank you all so much for being here tonight. Please do check out my website, tristhorpe.com. You can also check out Dr. Matt's website at drmatt.com, drmatt.com. You can check out a lot of his blogs and a lot of his research on all of the stuff I've been talking about. He also writes for Psychology Today, so you can check out his stuff, and also the empowermentpartnership.com, which is where you'll find a list of all of our events. So look in your inbox for the email with the free gift and the discount code for empowering your life. And thank you all so much for being here tonight. It was a real pleasure, and we'll talk with you again very soon. In the meantime, be well.